I love how purple you are.
Oh, thank you.
It's
I was
very
like,
bisexual lighting.
yeah, always go for bisexual lighting. I wanted to have it look interesting, so I grabbed my light.
Aha. Welcome, friends. I know these days are dark and the doom is heavy. I know we can't ignore the darkness, and we won't, but I think we can take some time to focus on the light, make space for joy, because resistance requires resilience. So if you'd like to join me and my guest, Mandy, we're going to take some time for joy and have a bit of a conversation about joy. So, welcome, Mandy.
Hello, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I think we should also maybe situate things. For those who don't know, I did made a post about this, but Mandy and I are still, I think, in the stage of moving through the grief of a dear friend we lost last week. Um, our friend Oddnon, who knew a lot about joy and resistance and resilience, and who sadly will now not be a member, a guest on this. Um, but yeah, just like that's where that's a part of everything right now is moving through the feelings of missing my friend. And I know you've lost some other folks recently too. And yeah, it's just this is just being honest about where we are. Um, that in addition to the usual the heaviness that everyone's dealing with, we're also dealing with some personal stuff. But
hmm
as I say in my introduction thing, we need to make space for joy to maintain resilience. So we're gonna do that.
Yeah, we are. And yeah, I'm glad that you kind of preface that at the beginning of this because yeah, that's definitely been on my mind as I've been thinking about, leading up to our conversation is like, what is joy and how do you kind of live with joy in the midst of like dealing with, particularly when you're really sitting with grief, and what that looks like. So I really love that you brought that up because it's it's hard, I think, to really sort of center joy at a time when you're feeling just crushed by personal loss. And as you mentioned, I've unfortunately dealt with a lot of the loss the last couple of years. Adnan is now unfortunately like the eighth person that I've known to die in the last couple of years, starting at the beginning of 2024. It's been a rough go. And in fairness, when I say no, some of them have been various degrees of closeness. Like my grandmother, she passed away at the beginning of 2024. Obviously, I was very close to her. And then there's been other people that was like, oh, a professor or somebody that was a local comedian passed away last year, things like that. So it's been a rough go in
Yeah,
my various little communities, for sure. But we relent, we resist, and we keep going.
yeah, and I think I love that quote from WandaVision that grief is love persisting.
Mm.
Because I think like part of keeping the memory of the people we love alive is thinking of them in joy. And even we had the day that we all found out in our server, I sat with a lot of people for a while in a video chat, and
Mhm.
even at that point, there were times when we were just laughing about some of our good memories of Oddnon.
Yeah.
In between, and then there would be waves where we would be like raging at the healthcare system that did not
Mhm.
give him the care that he needed, and then and then you'd be sad about the stuff that didn't get finished. And it's just like grief is a weird thing, man.
It's such a weird thing, and it really lives with you. Grief. It really is. I know it's been talked to death, but the movie The Babadook did such a good job about talking about the way that you have to kind of live with grief as this kind of like almost monstrous force, but this thing that you can also kind of like soothe, and it's soothing to you almost to live with it at a certain point. And I've been thinking about that a lot this past week. And yeah, I know I found out a little bit later because I'm not always on top of the Discord and sometimes I don't check my social media. So I actually found out that Oddnon had passed Saturday night when I was at a comedy show of all places, which is just because my life's a sitcom. So even in the midst of tragedy, there's some comedic lens happening to it. So I'm trying to like keep it together at a comedy show because I can't cry obviously at a comedy show. That'd be awful. But then the next morning, I really took the time to sit with it, and I was just, it was, I know I shared that link to a podcast interview that Adnan had done a few years ago, and he was making jokes, and I was laughing, and then I would cry, and then I would laugh some more. I remember at the very beginning of it, he says this thing he always says, where he's like, "Oh, you can call me whatever, just don't call me late for dinner," which was such a common joke he would make all the time, and I was laughing, and then I started crying, I'm like, ah. So yeah, it's such a weird thing to live with. But I do think it's in a way there's something kind of weirdly, I don't know if this is going to sound right, but there's almost something kind of noble about grief in a way because it is about that memory and holding that person close to you. And because so many people loved him and continue to love him, in a way, he's kind of never gone. His memory is always going to be with us. And we're going to do things in memory of him. There's going to be moments of kindness that are kind of like, I bet this is something Oddnot would do. So I'm going to do this, and I feel like that's the way we kind of um, get to honor somebody. And having that grief is hard, but it's also a way of kind of honoring that person too, if any of
Yeah,
that makes sense.
no, it does. It does. And I think going forward, I think perhaps this whole series is in a sense going to be dedicated to Adnan because I know he loved the idea and
Yeah.
making space for joy was so important to him. And he maintained so much joy while often being in a lot of pain. I don't want to do the like, inspiration porn thing because that
Yeah.
would devalue the whole humanity. But that's why I say like we're talking about joy, not to ignore the bad stuff, but
Hmm.
just to make some space in it to
Hmm.
continue. So we'll start with our questions by Mandy. Would you like to introduce yourself to the folks?
Oh, yes, absolutely. My name is Mainly Mandy, spelled like the state of Maine because I'm cool like that. I am a YouTuber here and in the YouTube space. I recently reached 10,000 subscribers, so still kind of on the smaller side, but still doing good and making videos about a variety of different subjects that I feel strongly about. A lot of polyamory stuff, but then also I've made videos about being estranged from my mother, or one of my more recent ones was about being neurodivergent and how that works for me, and just stuff like that. I also do other things like I've done burlesque before. I'm a local comedian in my little corner of Maine and been getting back into that recently. And yeah, all kinds of fun stuff.
You've also been doing some work on Blue Sky, lifting up some of the Ice Watch stuff too.
Yes, yes. I've been really trying to share a lot of the information that I can and get out there, whether that's sharing the hotline or just sharing some of the information about the various organizations that could use more attention, like Project Relief in Maine and Maine Solidarity Fund and stuff like that as well. Yeah.
And we'll come back to that at the end with some links and stuff. Because I like to end with action steps. so
Yes. Ditto.
so we will so then talking about joy. What is joy to you? Do you want to give us some definition of joy?
Oh gosh, joy is such a hard thing to define because I feel like it kind of encapsulates so much. When I think about joy, I think about sort of elation. I think about peace. I feel about a sort of very present kind of thing, like very much in the moment. When I'm experiencing joy, I'm really just kind of caught up in the moment and I'm not thinking about things that are going on outside of that necessarily, or maybe I am, but like I'm able to kind of really just be in that moment. Joy is really this kind of weird, it's both very like individual because everyone's joy can be so different and experience it on such a personal level, but joy is also very communal. It's this thing you can share with people and come together and create as a unit, as a group. It's one of those beautiful things about humanity. It's like this very connecting, sort of bigger than ourselves thing that we get to all experience if we're fortunate, which most, I feel like most people experience joy in some form or another. And it's something that has no really signal definition, which is why I'm being kind of vague about it, because I just feel like it can just encapsulate so much. It's joy, it's the same way that love can mean so many different things, or even anger can be a beautiful thing, depending on how what you're experiencing and where that anger comes from. It's just such a wonderful thing, that I do think sometimes doesn't get as much focus, particularly in hard times, because we're so worried about like, um, maybe it almost feels cheap to experience it in the midst of so much pain. But in fact, I think it's the opposite. I think experiencing joy in hard times kind of makes it even stronger, because like, look at this thing you're able to do, you know?
And I think the interesting thing about trying to define something like that is there is no definition. There is just
Right.
like trying to find words to put around it is an interesting, creative, thing to do.
Hmm. And it's almost like I almost don't want to use too many words, because joy is such a big thing. It's like, if I say too many words, does it make it seem smaller? Like you can contain it in some way, and you can't. It's joy. It's just a woof. It's big. It's a feeling. It's a vibe. It's a
I like
lot
the
of things.
hand gestures.
You have to do the hand gestures. If you're not looking, if you're not seeing me right now, I'm just making a lot of hand gestures to encapsulate joy. It's kind of an explosion hand gesture.
So, to get a little more specific, talk about joy as in terms of identity. So, like,
Mhm.
you are a queer person. Like,
Mhm.
is queer joy a thing to you? Is there such a thing as poly joy? Like, how does joy come through marginalized identities?
Yeah, absolutely. As a queer woman, I definitely experience a lot of queer joy, especially like, when I'm at an event, or I'm in an experience that feels like almost intrinsically queer. Which again, what is queer? Queer is a whole encapsulation too. But you know what I mean? Like if I go to a pride parade, right? If I'm there and I'm seeing people just being so unapologetically themselves, and they're waving their flags, and they have fuck ice signs, and we're all booing the banks as they, well, we don't usually boo the banks. We usually just get really quiet when the banks walk by, and then it gets really loud again. It's really funny. I remember this past Pride was really fun for me, because my long distance partner came, and he had never been to a Pride before. He had never been to a Pride event, where he lives in Texas. They just don't really have anything nearby. He's kind of in the middle of nowhere, Texas. So I got to experience him experiencing Pride for the first time, and I got a lot of like secondhand joy just experiencing him, and like him taking pictures, and me having to tell him, you have to ask before taking pictures of normal like people on the side. Like, it's one thing to take a picture of the parade, but you got to ask for this. And then he was asking people and having conversations with people. He got a hug from somebody, and well, yeah, I think he got a few hugs. So like there's something about seeing queer people getting to embrace themselves and embrace their identities that is very beautiful to me. Or like going to a drag show. I love drag shows. I love burlesque shows. I love going to a queer comedy showcase and just hearing people talk about being queer in this very unapologetic, like, this is who I am, and I'm really happy about this. Like, that's where I really experience it, is when people get to just be so authentically themselves in spaces that are created with that in mind. And I definitely experience polyamorous joy as well. There's a thing in polyamory called compersion, which is like when you feel joy, basically seeing your partner with another person, and like there is that aspect of polyamorous joy for sure. For some people, not everybody experiences compersion. I have on occasion, but then I also experience polyamorous joy in the sense that, like, I've gone to poly discussion groups before, where we all sit down and we're talking about our experiences, or getting support for an experience, like, oh, I'm going through this thing. My partner just started seeing someone new, and it's kind of hard. And having that support of people be like, yeah, I've been there too. It can be hard. That can be a source of joy. Or, or yeah, going on a date with a couple of your partners at the same time, or with your polycule and your extended sort of polyamorous community, and just being out and about, and just having these really great moments that just feel so like this is polyamory. Like this, I've contained it into this moment. It's not really, but like, you know what I mean? It feels so like you're plugged into that moment. I think those are the moments when I feel the most joy. And I feel that too when I'm, when I'm like at a comedy show and I'm really vibing with people and having a good time with my fellow comedians, or when I went with my fellow YouTubers and we're like watching a movie together, or we're talking about whatever's going on in the world, and we're kind of all talking about stuff. Like I really experience a lot of joy specifically with those communities that are kind of having those sort of specific spaces and times sort of etched out for us, to really get to be ourselves. That's when I really feel it.
Would you feel comfortable talking more about compersion, or is that something you want to?
Oh yeah, no, I can totally talk about compersion. So compersion, yeah, like I said, it's basically that feeling of like you see your partner with another person and you feel joy. Like some people, they see their partner with another person, they might feel insecurity, they might feel jealousy, they might feel really uncomfortable with that. And they might feel uncomfortable for a lot of reasons that are also totally legit. Like, I'm not here to say, like, you have to feel compersion in order to be a good polyamorous person. You don't. You absolutely do not. But for those of us who can experience compersion, it just feels nice to see your person happy. That's really what it comes down to for me. It's the same way I feel if I find out a couple of my friends went off and they did something without me, but they had a good time. Like, yeah, sometimes there's that FOMO feeling a little bit. I've had it before, but there is something else about like, oh, my friends, my friends Sarah and Zilla talked about a cool book this weekend. Good for them. Like that feels nice. I like that feeling. And so I feel that same kind of way when I find out a partner of mine is seeing another person or had a really good date, or I get to see them together and they're really cute. And it's just like, oh my gosh, they're like so cute together. Good job. Let's go get him go. That feels nice to me. And obviously, again, it's okay if you don't experience that. But for me, it is a feeling of just like, yeah, look at him go. Good job. Again, if that makes sense.
No, it does. It does. I think we all experience that about some aspects
Mhm.
of life. I love seeing my nibblings playing together and
Yeah,
just like doing stuff, and they were making a film, which was adorable.
I love that. I love that. It's so much fun. Yeah, I love watching my nephews play. They're so cute. It's the
And
best.
I can just imagine like it's just like that brought to other more romantic-y aspects.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Let's talk a bit about gender. You already said as a queer
Yes,
woman. So
yes.
like thinking about joy and its relationship to gender, to both your own expression of gender and also like thoughts on the way the construction of gender. This question came out of my conversation with Finn. We were talking
Ooh,
where
okay.
we were thinking
Yeah.
about like, is there such a thing as man joy? And we were talking about the way that the patriarchy, insists you can have joy in these things, but not too much, and
Mm,
not having a woman on next. It's like to think about, um, yeah, how the constructions of gender impact our experience of joy, and then how also our own expression of gender, which is somewhat different than the constructions of gender most of the time. Yeah. So thoughts?
yeah. Yeah, yeah. That's a really big question. And I've been thinking about it this past week as well. So I know for myself, like I'm a cis woman. I very much just feel like I'm supposed to be a woman, and that feels comfortable for me. My expression of what I consider my femininity, I guess, is a lot of times very traditional. Like I like to wear dresses. I like to wear makeup sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes I like to wear makeup. I like to. There's some, I guess, traditionally female things I enjoy doing, or what we consider what have been locked into the
Dress
idea
goes
of gender,
twirly.
right? Yeah, dress goes twirly. Love dress that's twirly. Love a unicorn thing. Love a cute stuffed animal. But there are ways that I feel, quote, not as womanly in the way that's considered traditional because of things that I am. Like, again, I'm polyamorous. That is very much not considered the norm. I'm supposed to be with one man, a cis man, who I'm supposed to get married to and have his babies. And I don't want to do any of that. I don't want to just be with one person. I don't want babies. I had a surgery, so I'm never going to have children. And because I've sort of cut myself off from these very specific things, there's a way that my femaleness gets sort of almost denied. Like, if there's certain circles on the internet or whatnot, if they find me, they're just like, oh, you're too ugly to get a man anyway. That's really why you don't want to get married, or like, you'd be a terrible mother. And it's like, well, I mean, I probably would be a terrible mother. That's why I don't want to do it. I opted out of it. It's like when people are like, well, you're probably polyamorous because you'd be bad at monogamy. And it's like, yeah, I don't like monogamy. I'm not good at it. You're right. Congratulations, you cracked that case. But then that kind of does extend into this extra layer of like being perceived as less of a woman, being almost taken less seriously because I'm not adhering to these ideas of what femininity is supposed to be. Even when I dress a little bit more, like right today, I'm a little bit more quote mask presenting or whatever. That can feel like I'm almost a little bit more radical in my approach, even though this is just really, I'm just comfortable. I just really I like this shirt. I like this bandana. This just feels nice to me. But it's interesting the way that like we live in this kind of world that very much wants you to fit into a certain specific box that they have decided that this is what a woman is. And I'm like, no, but this is what a woman is to me. And this is what I like. And this still feels woman to me, whatever woman is, but it doesn't fit into what you've decided. So leave me alone, I guess. Like, let me just do my thing.
This is me. I am a woman. So clearly
Yeah,
this is doing women, even if you think I'm
exactly.
womaning incorrectly.
Right. Even if I'm not womaning in the same way you are. Like I have plenty of friends who are women who, yeah, they do want kids and they are married or want to get married and they want to have these more traditional sort of signposts or whatever that happen. And that's fine. But that's the thing, like they're fine with me too. Like we're all good with our different ideas of what makes us happiest. And it's one of those things where, when people do get so caught up in this idea of like, well, this is the only thing, it's like, that just sounds so limiting. Aren't you bored by that? Aren't you uncomfortable? Doesn't it just takes away so much of the vibrancy of like
Like, do you really want to
humankind?
be defined by your cervix? Is that really
Right? No,
Joanne?
I don't. I like to forget I have a cervix, I don't really care to acknowledge her that much. Like, yeah, so I don't know if I actually answered your question there. I just kind of rambled about gender a bit. Yeah, when it comes,
that is the purpose that
yeah,
you
perfect.
are guesting correctly.
Okay, excellent, excellent. So yeah, like when it comes to like things that kind of make me feel gender euphoria or woman joy, whatever that is, it's really just like, well, I'm a woman and I experience joy. There you ergo woman joy, I guess. I don't know. And like I guess some of the things I do that make me feel especially woman joy can be linked to more traditional things, but even then they're not. Like if I am wearing a really cute dress and my makeup is looking really good and my hair is a certain way, I might feel like a sort of sense of like, yeah, I am killing womanhood today. But it's not necessarily like, oh, I have to always look that way to experience female joy. Like I also experience a lot, again, talking so much about community aspect of things when I'm with just amazing women, like having a conversation with you feels great. Like this feels amazing. Or with my good friends in the real world, if I'm talking to female comics or if I'm talking to other YouTubers or if I'm talking to my sister, like those are connections with other women that mean a lot to me, and having that kind of communal aspect really that does bring me a sort of sense of joy. And we all have such different ways of expressing ourselves, or of sort of being a woman, whatever that means for each of us. It's all different, and when we all come together, it feels so natural and feels so like easy to like be together and to just exist, and it feels great. Like, why we gotta make it complicated?
Yeah, even when you present Les Femme, it's in a soft butch kind of aesthetic, which is
Yeah,
it is encompassed within womanhood. Is one
yeah,
expression
absolutely.
is soft butchiness.
I mean, I love a woman in a suit. Oh my God, it's the best. Like Charlize Theron in a suit, like yes, yes, you know.
Hmm.
Like that's actually how I like to describe my sexuality in general. It's like if you look good in a suit, I think you're hot, and luckily everybody looks good in a suit, so everybody's hot. You know. And yeah, like when I'm dressed like this, I feel very comfortable. This feels good to me. This I like this. You know, I got my rings on, I got a little makeup on, but I got this like cute little button-down shirt, and I feel a little butch, but like, you know, I don't know. This is
I
just what works for me.
I felt femme today, but yesterday I was in overalls, and it's just
Right. And I love overalls. Overalls are so comfy.
yeah,
And they're cute. Overalls are adorable.
yeah. We're by expressionist as well as bisexual.
Yeah.
I think that's a really interesting way to explore the idea, and that's what we're here to do is just explore ideas. We're not looking
Yeah.
for like answers. This is just all about conversation, and
Correct.
yeah, thinking about the way that I'm thinking about you talking about like the way that we get sort of looked down on for not womaning correctly by
Mm.
often by like the silliest people in the world.
Right? Like, shut up, Elon Musk. You don't get to judge my womanhood. You're barely a human being. Come on. Like, what the hell?
And what are we if we are not women? Because they're not treating us like men.
No,
This is kind
we're
of
kind of
like
nothing. We're non-people. Like,
we're unwomen.
we're unwomen. Yeah. What does that sound like? Ugh.
Yeah.
Um, and you know, there is also an interesting aspect of this as we're talking that I'm thinking of, and that's that specifically as fat women, there's an element of gender that gets denied fat women, I think,
Hmm.
like a sort of femininity that gets denied because, like, oh, womanhood is supposed to be this like skinny, kind of conventionally attractive, skinny, straight size kind of person who fits into a certain kind of mold, and then you have somebody like people like us who obviously don't. We're fat people. And are unapologetic about that too. And so then there's an element of it that is like, well, you're supposed to be hating yourself at the very least, or you're supposed to be constantly trying to lose weight to be this supposed ideal. And it's like, no, I don't want to do that. Um, no, you can't make me. It doesn't bring me joy. Like I like moving my body. I like, you know, fueling myself with foods that feel good, but that doesn't necessarily translate to being skinny. That's not what that means. Like people don't understand. And obviously, I'm preaching to the choir
Oh
here.
yeah,
You know exactly what I'm talking about. Um, we've had conversations about this before.
yeah. I got a comment on the last one of these with someone saying, "Why would you align yourself with fat? Define yourself by fatness. Why are you celebrating an unhealthy lifestyle?" It's like, why did you jump from my body to lifestyle?
Right.
In an episode where a thing where we talked about the joy of movement and like swimming and stuff, it's like you
Hmm.
just assume that my body looks like this, ergo I must never move.
Never move. And also you must be miserable because fat people aren't allowed to have joy.
Yes.
We're just constantly miserable and
So yeah,
upset about being fat. So
yeah, I think fat joy is a very rebellious thing to
hmm
have fat in to have joy in your fatness and
hmm
enjoy in a fat body is very that I think is itself an act of resistance.
It is. I follow a lot of like that like content makers, like influencers or stuff just to have like a more diverse feed. And I love like I don't know if I love anything quite as much as seeing like a fat woman, especially just not giving a fuck, you know, like just wearing whatever they want at the beach, wearing something sexy and revealing, wearing things that you know aren't as flattering or whatever. Like it's let them have fun. Like I love that. You made a really fantastic video about that scene in Shrill, right? That's the name of the show. I still haven't seen it. I need to watch the show. About like going to this like fat this fat like swim pool party where all these women are fat and they're wearing their swimsuits, and how important that scene is. And I love that video so much, and I love that moment. I need to watch the show, obviously, and that's what I think about too, is like this just moment of getting to just be, and just getting to be in your body and be okay with your body and everybody else's body, because ultimately they're just bodies. Like, these things change all the time, and they're just these things that we kind of walk around in and experience the world. When why do we got to be weird about it? Why do we got to be judgmental about people's bodies, or not allow certain bodies into certain spaces? Like, why not make things accessible and just be cool? Just be cool, bro. Just be cool.
And it's the only one. It's the only one you're ever gonna have. So
right.
Why not, dress it in things that make you happy?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I might have mentioned this to you before. I've been experiencing a little bit of weirdness with my appearance lately, not because of necessarily like my weight or anything, but because I've reached the age where I look exactly like my mother, and that's been like a whole like thing for me in the last like few months now. Where I really like I've had times where I couldn't look at myself in the mirror because I look and I'm like, oh, that's my mom. Like that scares me. And so I've been talking to my therapist a lot about it, and she really suggested like trying to sort of like think about ways to adorn myself. Like, what are things that you can do that make you feel you, and those things that you do find sort of joy in. And for me, it's a lot of like, well, I really like my jewelry that I wear. I love wearing fun earrings, and I really love my all my rings I like to wear, or certain clothing that makes me really happy, And I focus on that kind of stuff, and that really brings me a lot of joy, and it helps me feel more like myself. Like, this is me. This is not. This is my body. This is my life. This is who I am. And I some days I succeed better than others, but today's been a good one. Today's been a good day. So
I can't really imagine that. I think as part of being, mixed race, no matter there, and also because I'm fat and she's tiny, like there is nothing. I'm never going to look in the mirror and see my mother under any circumstance. We have some features in common, but like,
yeah,
my mom is a tiny little Scottish lady.
Yeah. My mother is also a large woman like myself. She's had like weight loss surgeries and stuff, so she's not as big as she used to be, but she's still a large woman. And so we do share a lot of similarities in our appearance. One thing that my siblings always say to me is like, well, you don't look like mom, you look like you. And I always remember that as like a thing to be like, well, yeah, we share some DNA, obviously, but it is, I am ultimately a very different person than my mother, and I get to own myself. So that kind of helps.
You have fabulous taste in earrings.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. I was actually just admiring your earrings too. They're very pretty. I like that. They look very vintage.
They're from a Turkish shop.
Oh, nice. I like them.
Yeah.
Look great.
Yeah, that's the thing about when I went for the high fade is like, I'm going to make more of an effort with earrings.
Yeah, when I shaved my head completely, I was like, well, obviously I got to bring out all the big earrings. So I've been wearing, like, I wore these big ones of these huge rainbow earrings I'm wearing today. I got like French fry earrings. I just like really been embracing the fun earrings.
It's interesting that hair is something that women are sort of expected to find joy in, and expected to find femininity in. And I do, but it's amazing to me how much joy I got from like shaving most of it off.
Yeah. It's a fun feeling. There's something so satisfying about like having that little peach fuzz in certain spots. Like, and I love it.
Yeah.
I'm currently growing out my hair, or else I'd be like, yeah, let's shave it again. Because I do think I look good with a shaved head. And I think you look great with that haircut. That really looks great on you.
I just did the fade this morning.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's always a good feeling, and you're like, you. And not that I didn't enjoy when I had long hair. I did. I loved my ringlets. They were a lot, but and then when I went to like a, like a sort of bobby sort of thing for a while, and and like it's one of those things. It's like, it's a shame that so much of humanity is denied joy in experimenting with hair.
Right? Yeah. No, that's very true. I've always loved playing with my hair. Like I remember dyeing my hair black when I was 13. And the first time I had blue in my hair and things like that. I've always loved playing around with it. And I think it's sad we live in a world where sometimes people can't do that. Maybe you have a job that doesn't let you, has very strict ideas of what you can do with your hair. Unfortunately, there's often very much a racial component there too for people of color and Black people, having certain hairstyles like not being allowed or not considered quote professional. And it's like, well, the hair doesn't do the profession, the person does. Like,
Mm-hmm.
why are we being weird about this? I've been very fortunate that a lot of the jobs I've worked at a deli, I've worked, very much like admin, but behind the scenes at places. And now at my current job, at a front desk at a chiropractor's office, like I'm very much allowed to just kind of do what I want with my hair. They don't really seem to care. I've shaved my head, they didn't care. I've dyed my hair three different colors, they didn't care. Because they ultimately know like it's not really about the hair, it's about how you present yourself. And I'm a very friendly person and I'm good at my job. So they don't really need to stifle that. And it's too bad that's not true for there's a lot of people out there that have jobs where they can't do that. They will be judged by it, much in the same way that there's still places that have issues with visible tattoos, which is to me seems very silly. Like unless somebody has like a yikes tattoo,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's a weird thing to get upset about, because it's not because a tattoo is just some ink in a skin, and you're in your skin and you're a person. You know what I mean? It just seems silly.
I understand the logic of it from the type of people who want to control people.
Yeah,
That they don't want people. It's like, oh, the reason they don't want people to access joy, they don't want people to access expression.
right.
Um, so I understand the logic of that, but I don't understand why people the amount of people who sort of continue that when it's of no benefit to them. It's just
Right. The
like,
people who sort of buy into it and are complicit in it and continue to sort of push that agenda.
mm-hmm,
It's like, well, don't you know that kind of like, you'll hear an older gentleman say something about like, oh, well, having long hair and a guy makes him look like a girl. And it's like, why is that bad? Like, why are you, it does not affect you at all, sir. You're just a random man. Like, just,
there was a blue sky that Jesse shared yesterday that I thought was hilarious of a guy being angry that the Klingon in the new show wears a skirt sometimes, which is sort of like, it's like a more like a kilt. It's like kind of thing, but
I'm about to say that
like Klingons are not. It's like like it's an alien race. There's nothing non-warrior about having. There's nothing warrior about having your leg coverings bifurcated.
right. And it's like there's so many examples on Earth in Earth history of like skirts or like more loose garments for men's legs to move around. So like why
Why are you carrying water for this? This is utter nonsense.
right? Like I don't know why you want to die on this hill, but I guess you're dead, honey. Like it's just like just let's move on. And it's Klingons, man. You really gotta like if Klingons were real, would you really tell a Klingon to his face like, "Oh, nice skirt"? Like, yeah, okay.
Mm-mm, mm-mm. One of the things that bring us joy is you've got to check out the new series.
I am so behind on Star Trek. I haven't watched a new Trek in a minute. So yeah, I need to.
You can just skip to this one.
All right, sounds good.
How do you make space for joy?
Great question. I find that I experience probably the most joy with other people, or in sort of like being as authentic to myself as possible. So sometimes that means, taking the time to like reach out to a friend and just like talk to a friend for a while. Or, showing up for like one of our movie nights or something like that, and just being around people, even if I'm not feeling very talkative for whatever reason, just being around people really helps me feel joy. I've been making because I kind of fell off for a little bit on doing comedy. I've been going to more open mics recently, and just going to an open mic with your friends who are all really funny, trying out new stuff. Everyone's here just to have a good time. The bartender's, a great person with this really wonderful atmosphere that they sort of cultivate. And then you have person after person going up to the mic and saying "fuck ice." Like that brings me joy. That feels so good. Like the first night, they just restarted up one of the open mics I go to. The first night that we were back, everybody was making jokes about how much ice sucked. It was great. It was so good. It was a really fun time. I made some jokes. Other people made jokes, and that really that was a way of that really made me feel joy. That made me feel connected. That made me feel safe as we can feel in current
Hmm.
events. So for me, it's hard for me to take the time to make joy sometimes because I make myself so chronically busy and I'm constantly thinking about all the things I want to do. But when I really like just focus in and go like, okay, I want to spend time with cool people that are doing awesome shit and we're gonna, do our weird, silly art that makes us feel good and maybe other people find it good too. That's really when I feel that joy. So if I make the time to do that, I tend to experience more joy. So I try to do that. And then there's other things I try to do, like I really enjoy writing. So like I like to take the time to write, whether I'm working on like an actual like project or I've been working on a television series that will never be made because I'm not rich and don't have the money to make TV shows. But it's just fun to write a story about a polyamorous woman getting murdered and her polykill has to solve the case. Like that's a way to make joy because that feels very me and it's been a lot of fun. Or like I mentioned earlier, I like to move my body, and sometimes I pop down my rowing machine and just row as I have a video essay on, and that brings me a sense of joy because not only am I like moving my body, which feels good, because I do spend so much time static, like sitting between jobs and everything I do. But then it also feels good to like, oh, I'm like watching a video essay by somebody who is really smart and they're teaching me something new. And I really like this person. Like that feels good, like supporting people. So how do I make time for joy? I really force myself to do it because if not, I am a lot sadder for sure.
Yeah, I like that. So, what is something that brings you particular joy? So, like, this is the special interest app. Hyperfixate all you want.
Oh gosh, there's so many. This is hard. I this is probably a silly one, but it's the first one that came to mind, so I'm gonna go with it. I get a lot of joy when I'm wearing a really cute dress and somebody says to me, "Oh my God, I love your dress." And then I get to tell them it has pockets. That is an amazing feeling. I love that feeling. I
This
recently
one
got a
has
new,
pockets.
yeah, it does. Yes. Isn't it? Oh, and it's so cute too. And I denied you the opportunity to do that. I'm sorry. I should have said it. I should have been like, "Oh my God, Sarah, your dress is so cute." And then he could have been like, "It's got pockets."
Well, you only see this much of me, but yes, I have pockets.
It's That's amazing. Yeah, I just got a new dress for Christmas. My dad got me, and it's polka dot, and it's got pockets, and it's so cute. And I wore it to a
Oh,
party recently, and I loved it.
I saw your selfie of that. That is so cute. You need go-go boots.
Yes, I do. I do need go-go boots for sure. It's such a cute dress. If you go follow me on Instagram, you can see it. I'm pretty sure I posted. Yeah, it's on Instagram. So, or other places.
I just found a weird like thing in my pocket that says
Oh,
"Let Love Grow." I have no idea
oh,
what that's from, but it's cute.
that's very cute.
A weird random thing to find when you go pockets. Wait.
Pockets. Wait, a bit of maybe something relevant to this conversation actually. There's some joy. The
That was
joy of
very
finding
random.
something that you weren't expecting. That's joy.
So what else? Pockets, what else brings you joy?
Performing brings me a lot of joy, whether I'm working on like a YouTube video and getting to perform like in front of a camera, or doing comedy, as I've mentioned now several times. I love getting in front of people and entertaining or making them laugh or making them think. That feels really good. It feels really good to try something and then have somebody come up to you afterwards and be like, "Oh, that was really good," or "That really meant something to me." I did a show once years ago when I was still kind of new to comedy, It was called what was it called? Screw Loose and Fancy Free, and it was a mental health burlesque. Like, so all the numbers were about mental health in various ways. And I did comedy, obviously. I did stand up, and I did a whole joke about my mental health, which I've had some stuff, obviously, including some dealing with some depression and some some dark times. And I had somebody after the show come up to me, and he was like, "That was amazing. Thank you so much." And I found out later that he was the husband of one of the other performers and had apparently been in tears during my set, which usually you don't want for a comedian. You know, that's the opposite effect we're going for. But because I was just talking so like openly about, having dealt with suicide ideation in this case, that really meant a lot to him. And hearing about, the punchline of the thing was something along the lines of like, well, I can't kill myself because I have cats and they would definitely come to the gates of heaven and drag my ass back. Like it was something along those lines. And that made him laugh and cry at the same time. And that feels good. I get such joy out of people really like resonating with what I'm talking about. That feels really good too.
It's amazing how humor can sustain you and even in like the weirdest moments. Like I remember when I was having a whole breakdown thing, and my friends took me to the emergency room actually because I was like kind of dissociating, and they were not sure what to do. And this was in the UK, and the doctor was also like, I don't really know what to do. I'm going to get the psych nurse, and it was the psych nurse's day off.
Oh no.
And then the funny thing is, like, so they sent me away. And I had to go. It was a complicated whole like odyssey, but I did get help. It's fine. But I can always tell, you can tell there's something you can tell about people when they will laugh at that, because I find it hilarious. And actually, it was we were in the car leaving. I started to come out of the disassociated thing by laughing at it being the Tiger's day.
Yeah. I think that's honestly a big reason why I enjoy doing comedy so much, is like it does honestly help me process some of these things that I've gone through. I talked about my grandmother dying in 2024. And the funny thing about that story is that the day I found out she had passed away, like I was already on my way into work. So like I was like, okay, well, I know me well enough to know it's going to take a couple of days before it hits, right? Like I live in a capitalism. I need to go to work. If it hits me, we'll figure it after that. But like right now, let's just go. So I get to work. I'm taking off my stuff. I take off my purse. I take off my jacket. And then I look down, and it was at that moment that I remembered the shirt that I had put on before finding out my grandmother had died. Enjoy death in Coca-Cola font right over my boobs. The day my grandmother died, I was wearing that shirt and had no idea until it didn't hit me. And that's hilarious. And I wrote a whole set about it because it's just so fucking funny. And I remember specifically when I was at work and I told my boss, because this was when I worked at the deli, I told my boss about it, and I was like, okay, so my grandmother died. And he's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm like, no, it's okay. I just wanted you to know, because if it hits me, I might need to take myself aside. Funny story. Look at the shirt I'm wearing. And he was horrified. And I'm like, no, it's funny. It's okay. We can laugh. But he looks like the look on his face. I'll never forget it. It was so funny.
I have seen the shirt, and you can too in your video about death.
Yeah,
and Mike Flanagan. Yeah, which is an excellent one. And I've always remembered this lesson to maintain humor no matter what. So it was actually taught to me when I was in early high school. We had had a talk by a Holocaust survivor.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's so dark immediately. Yeah, no. But he actually he like joked and stuff throughout his talk, and he talked about how like that helped save him. His humor helped save him. Like even when he was liberated and the doctors were going through looking at who they could save, and one of the doctors didn't think he could be, and he was just like, "Thank you very much." And the guy's like, we're saving him. He's got strength.
He's got spunk. That'll take you a long way.
And it's just like, yeah, it's a thing I've always tried to remember, and I think it's really helped me. As just like keeping your humor in the dark times
Hmm.
can just be the difference between giving up and finding that last little thing to keep going.
Hmm. I absolutely agree. And I think it's really interesting how often in stories of resistance and in dark times, the stories that come out often, there are ones where they were just being silly and they were like, screw you, this is dumb. Fascism is ultimately such a silly ideology. Why would you believe this? I'm going to undermine the shit out of you. And they can't handle it. They get so mad. I mean, look at how upset they get if you just call them weirdos for being weirdos because it's objectively weird to be like, you know what, you were born with this so you have to be this. That's objectively weird. I'm sorry, it is, and they just can't handle it when you start making jokes about it. Like, it's such a interesting thing how often they want to beat you down and make you hopeless and make you depressed and upset, and frankly they want you to feel like them. It must be absolutely miserable to be a fascist. It's got to be, right?
Mhm.
So, some of my favorite stories in history of people resisting are them saying, like, no, we're going to take the piss out of this. We're going to have fun with this. We're going to put on a play in the middle of a siege, or we're going to slip drawings of Nazis, like drowning at sea into the pockets of officers while they're at the bar and then hide. Like, my two favorite women in history, the lovely French women who did that during the occupation of France during World War II. They were just having fun, and when the Nazis found out about them, they were just like, oh, these are the two women who've been undermining us the whole time. These two little old ladies, these two very non-binary lesbian women who were just like, just yeah, undermining them just with such a joyous slant. They just don't know how to handle that, and I love those kind of stories.
And there's a statue, I think, in I can't remember where exactly it is, of a little old lady hitting a Nazi over the head with a purse.
Yeah, yes, I know the statue. I need to see it in person someday. Queen. Love it.
One of the things that I've always enjoyed is like I like domestic fiction, and I like there's a lot of stories, particularly out of the UK, about the home front during the Second World War.
Mhm.
And again, they talk about how there would people would be in the shelters trying to get through the Blitz, and they would sing,
Mhm.
and they would sing little songs and silly things and fun stuff and laugh, and to just kind of keep the spirits up, keep them going. Sing like uh, knees up, Mother Brown, and
Yeah.
roll up the barrel, and just like all sorts of just to keep the spirits raised, to keep people from being totally drained and exhausted. Like there was
Mhm.
the Entertainment National Service was often referred to as every night something awful.
Mhm.
Because that was the humor. Uh,
Yeah.
they tried to find ways. So yeah, I believe very much that, especially being able to laugh at yourself. That's the thing.
Mhm.
Fascists are fine with laughing at other people, but they can't laugh at
Mhm.
themselves.
They can't. They can't take a joke at all. If I slip on some ice and I fall, I'm going to lay there for a moment and I'm going to start laughing because how silly that I probably just looked just now. That's
Mhm.
funny. That's objectively funny. Like, if I'm seriously hurt, it's not as funny. But if I just slip on some
Even if
ice,
I'm hurt, it's like, damn, what did I do? I
like
landed on my
I
ass.
can't, I've lost count of the number of times I've slipped or fallen and fell right on my ass and then started laughing because it was just so silly.
There's something there, and there is something funny about ice falling on ice.
It's so funny that there's been so many memes of that one in particular ice officer in Minnesota
Yeah,
that slipped. And
ice on
my
ice
favorite
crime.
one, yeah, yeah. And my favorite one is the one where they caught him like mid, like right as he hits the ice with his limbs up, and they have all the Sonic the Hedgehog rings coming out of him. It's hilarious. But they can't laugh at
They
themselves
can't
about
laugh at
that.
themselves.
You
The guy
know,
just had to like run off.
yeah,
Uh,
he ran. He was like, ah, and he ran, which in itself is also very funny.
yeah, but like like doing a complete like Charlie Chaplin
Yeah.
pratfall on the ice. is often painful and kind of sucks in some ways, but it's also always funny.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it is, and it says so much that the sense of humor from fascists is just so bad. It's just so like, again, as a stand-up comedian, when I see people kind of get like weird about like, well, you can't joke about anything anymore, and it's like, well, jokes have an expiration date. Like jokes can age very quickly. Like I've heard you say that before. Jokes is one of those forms that they can expire. So after a certain point, if you're just telling the same jokes over and over again, yeah, they get boring because I've already heard you make some stupid joke for the umpteenth time about helicopters, attack helicopters, and identifying as whatever. Like I've heard that joke before, but you know what joke I haven't heard is from the trans person who my buddy Billy once made a really great joke about how their gender is like Bugs Bunny. They just want to kiss their enemies and wear a dress. It's just I had never heard that one before. That's so funny. That's objectively funny because it's new and it's different, and that's fascism doesn't want new, doesn't want different. It wants to make everything the same, and it wants to like kind of water everything down, and that's so boring to me. Let's have fun with it. Let's try new things. Let's get more perspectives out there. Let's have some new punchlines, please. Like that's why you
Yeah.
go to open mics. Try some stuff out.
And you don't always know what will expire and what will last. Like
True. Yeah.
there are some George Carlin bits that would not last, and you come across them and you're like, "Eh," and then there's other ones that's
Yeah.
like that's hilarious, or like we watched History of the World part in our Discord with a bunch of film folks
Mhm.
and a bunch of people that they would think of like that the right would think of as killjoys, and like would not, but and yeah, there were moments when we were like, ooh, Mel,
Yeah.
did you have to say that word? Did you have to do that thing? And then there's other moments where, and that actually you just move on from quite quickly, and then
Mhm.
you're enjoying the other stuff that's still hilarious.
Right. Yeah. Like we watched Best in Show last
Mhm.
night, right? And they have a gay couple in that movie that easily they could have really taken it to that like really cringy like that way that like earlier depictions of gay people on screen is really cringy, but really what makes them funny isn't so much them being gay, it's the fact that they like they go to the hotel room and they bring a bunch of stuff with them, or like the fact that like I really appreciate when we try to do something more interesting than just like the stereotypical stuff, right? And yeah, some things, yeah, you don't know what's going to age as time goes on, and also you got to know your audience too. Like there are certain jokes I might tell in one place that I'm not going to tell somewhere else because, like a bar is a very different venue than like performing in a theater, for example. So like you also have to know like what audiences are looking for, and if you're telling jokes that your audience aren't going to like and aren't going to respond to, well, that was your job. Your job is to make people laugh. And if you don't make people laugh, then you're not doing your job.
Mhm.
So, you know,
The
it's
worst
just
comics are the people who are like, "Why aren't you laughing?"
right. Oh my God, I hate that. It's like, I'm not laughing because you're not funny.
Yeah.
I don't find your jokes funny. And maybe somebody else in this room does, but like what if you're getting defensive about it, it just makes you look it makes you look very desperate if you're just constantly being like, well, why aren't you laughing at my jokes? These jokes are funny. It's like, are they? Like I try out jokes that I think are funny, and if they don't work, I drop them or I change them. That's part
Mhm.
of the process.
You're
It's
not
how it
entitled to
works.
laughter.
Exactly. You're not. And laughter is one of those things that it can bring people together. It's supposed to be this fun thing. So like why not embrace that, I guess. I don't know.
Anything else that brings you joy that you want to talk about?
I've been getting a lot of joy recently out of doing more reading and
Mm.
trying to not be. I haven't done as well the last couple of days, but in general, I've been trying to do more reading and like not be on like my phone as much, like at the end of the day, especially. And I've been really finding a lot of joy in that, just like using my imagination and getting swept up in a book and having really strong feelings about like, oh girl, you're in the attic, he's gonna find you. Like that feels really good. I get joy from that too.
Have you read Terry Pratchett yet?
No, I actually haven't read that much Terry Pratchett. I read Good Omens forever ago. And obviously I have feelings about Neil Gaiman now. But I haven't
Mm.
read that much Terry Pratchett, so I need to read more.
I think you'd really enjoy it because he is a comedic storyteller. particularly
Yeah.
enjoy him in audiobook form, because he has such a
Hmm.
clear narrator voice that it's
Yeah.
really enjoyable to just be told the stories. I think you'd really enjoy. There's a few I think you really enjoy, but I think you'd enjoy the witches, or you'd enjoy there's a whole series where of uh, that is kind of police procedurals, essentially, but in
Okay.
like a medieval world. And as it goes through,
Ooh,
he
that's fun.
essentially does reform the police because
I love it.
the main character Sam Vimes like is a total bastard, but he's a
Mhm.
bastard on the side of justice.
Okay.
Like action.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, I do tend to bounce around when I'm reading. So like I'll get like maybe I'll be focused on a series for a little bit and then I'll just be like, I'm gonna eject for a bit. And then I read something completely different. Like I read a couple of like kind of like thrillers, Grady Hendrix books that were really good, and then I jumped into reading like a book about resistance and art and hard times that was really good. And now I'm reading Vacation Land by John Hodgman. Which is like a series of like essays and stuff that he's written, including some about Maine, which I actually haven't gotten to the main ones yet. But he's I like his storytelling style. It's pretty funny. There's a moment where he and what's his name, Jonathan Coltrane, are like out in the woods, like a beach, and some random people find him, and they're like, "Oh my God, you're Jonathan Coltrane! You wrote all these songs, and then you went on the internet, and then they came out, and you did this all this indie like producing, and you're John Hodgman. You've been on TV sometimes." It's just so good. It's so well done. So yeah, that's bringing me a lot of joy now is like reading and like remembering the written word and enjoying because I have a lot of books I need to read.
A good sort of place to dip in that's a one off book uh, would be The Truth, which is what
Mm.
happens when a sort of Lord of the Rings based kind of world, because that's Discworld is sort of kind of based on that sort of world. But what happens when that world develops printing and gets a newspaper?
Ooh, okay. Interesting. All right, I'm down. I'll add it to the list.
Yeah, that's a good sort of one off. A lot of the others are like little series within the world. But The Truth is one of the best one offs. Is there anything else you want to talk about, or are we?
I think I've talked about everything I planned to, and then some. So I'm feeling pretty good if you're feeling pretty good.
Okay, so I like to end with do you have recommended action steps for the folks at home? Now, folks, we're not telling you to do all of these things. It's the thing is the one of the antidotes to apathy is action. And so this is just like these are options. Whatever inspires you to do one of them, or if it inspires you to do something else, this is just, you know, we're just spitballing ideas. So action steps. What would you have to offer?
Yes. So as a Mainer, I feel very strongly about trying to support the many of the amazing Maine-based nonprofits. There are some in particular who have been helping our immigrant and refugee population here in Maine. As many of you know, there has been a surge in ICE agents. Supposedly, the surge is over now. Mm, we'll see about that. So there are a couple organizations in particular that I would love to shout out. One of them is Project Relief Maine. They, in particular, have been doing a lot of work to report on ICE sightings, helping immigrants be reunited with families, tracking people who have been deported already to other or sent away to other states, and have even gotten some people home, which is great. So you can follow them as well as support them financially if you're able to. I also highly recommend supporting, if you are able to, the Maine Solidarity Fund. Again, they do a lot of raising money for funds and organization work with volunteers to like get people groceries or things of that nature. Also, a huge shout out to Maine Needs, which also has done a lot of work to help people get cleaning supplies as well as clothing and food when they need it. So those are all great organizations you can follow. You can share their stuff. You can donate financially if you're able to. And of course, it's always important. I know it's not always fun to do so, but it is important to engage with your representatives, reaching out to people, leaving messages after messages, being like, hey, let's defund ICE, let's get them the hell out of here. Or, talking about the importance of supporting legislation in your area that maybe is helping to support immigrants. Like I know recently here in Maine, there was a couple that came up that were it's limiting ICE's access to public spaces, particularly hospitals, schools, places like that, where, obviously we very vulnerable people should be able to have access to. As well as there was another one I think that was about redistributing some of the funding for them to other things as well. So definitely keep an eye on what's going on a local level, because I think if we focus so much on the federal level, not that we shouldn't be aware of it, it's very easy to get overwhelmed. But when you start looking on the local level, there's so much organizing happening, so much more than you might even realize. So I highly recommend looking out to see what is available to you in your area, or if there isn't something, maybe you get some friends together and start doing something, even if it's as simple as let's all hang out together and we're going to call reps or write some post-it cards, or not post-it cards, postcards, or let's do some phone banking or something. Like there's a lot of
Mhm.
local things you can focus on, and that helps me a lot.
And likely a lot of the organizations you mentioned for Maine, there's probably also
Mhm.
similar ones in other states.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know. I think Project Relief in particular, they have like the one I mentioned is Project Relief Maine, but I'm pretty sure they are in multiple states. I'm pretty sure that's more of a national nonprofit, and there's definitely like comparable things to some of the other ones I've mentioned in other states as well. So yeah, definitely, do your research, see what's out there. You might be surprised.
And while it's good to do local, it's also good to sort of try and interconnect between
Hmm.
local organizations in different spaces. Like it's there's collaborations at the ground level
Hmm.
can be really important rather than always looking for the top down.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think those are some great steps, some great organizations to look at. You'll give me the links so that I can include them. I think.
Yes, I can do that. I can absolutely do that.
So we have a bunch of link options, and yeah, places you can donate, and places you can also, if you have time, if you don't have money but you have time, whatever resources you have, whether it's
Mhm.
time or money or the energy to boycott or whatever you have, there is
Mhm.
a use for. We focus a lot on getting out there and doing things in person, but sometimes you can't do that. Like our
Mhm.
friend Oddnon could not do that for a lot of the time. He called himself an air conditioned comrade, because he would do work on mutual aid stuff and do support stuff, all because he had admin and computer and all that stuff, and he had time in. So he would, and it's amazing, doing the dishes of the revolution, as some have referred to it,
Mhm.
can do a lot. And so yeah, it's just about understanding what you have to give,
Mhm.
and then doing the thing to main part of the whole thing of having joy is, and making space for joy and time and connection, is it feeds you so you can keep doing the work, because resistance requires resilience.
Mhm.
Sometimes being joyful, especially when they don't want you to be, because as we've talked about, the silly people who want you to be miserable
Yep.
and
Yeah.
alone, um, refusing their silly requests and being connecting and finding joy is itself resilient resistance, and so is, but also finding joy feeds your resilience to resist and to do the work. So yeah.
It does. And I love that you mentioned Oddnon as a good example of someone who, yeah, maybe he wasn't out there at the front lines of a protest, but certainly no one we know that knew him would ever say that he wasn't doing important work, because he absolutely was. Between the charity streams and the mutual aid, and just being such a important presence of support. I mean, oh, I just got emotional. Sorry. His last
It's
message
okay.
to me was him reaching out to me after I got doxxed. And that was such an important message for me to get at the time, because I was processing that. So even just being a support person in your community can be so important and can have such important ripple out effects, even just simple kindness. So don't discount that. Like every little bit really does make a difference.
Yeah. And one of the things that can make a difference is when you're in a crowded space or public space, if you can wear a mask, especially if you think you're sick, because part of what led to Oddnon's illness is not enough people doing that. And, you know, anger. And yeah. So those are, you know, sometimes the things you do to care for yourself and to take responsibility for yourself can have real ramifications on the people around you. And then that includes things like taking care of yourself when you're sick. Which, you know, won't save everyone. Yeah, never underestimate the importance of taking care of yourself and one another, to the wider cause of, you know, better human existence,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense.
Absolutely. No, it very much makes sense.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we will leave it there. We will say goodbye to the folks. Thank you, Mandy, so much for joining me for this conversation. And if people want to hear more from you, like for example, watch that video where you wear the Enjoy Death shirt, or learn more about polyamory, both the good parts and the dangerous parts, where can they follow you?
Yes, you can find me on YouTube under the name Mainely Mandy, again, spelled like the state of Maine. You can also follow me over on Instagram, same name. I'm basically Mainly Mandy on all the things except for the most notable one being X, because screw X. But I'm on Instagram, I'm on Blue Sky, I'm on YouTube, obviously, and those are the best places to find me.
And the links will be in the doobly doo.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
you will. And
yeah.
thank you so much for having me. This has been a really great conversation to talk with you about, and yeah, I feel like this is really good, important work to do to talk about joy and how we can experience it in all of its multifaceted ways. So thank you for doing this.
Thanks. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed these conversations. I'm looking forward to having more of them. I don't know who will be next, but we'll see.
We'll see. It's
Yes.
exciting.
So yeah, thank you folks for joining us, and take care of yourselves
Bye,
and one another.
everybody.
Bye.